Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome, Vince. Um, Great to see you. So here we are, along the wonderful Bashika. And I just take the second to point out that if you find yourself enjoying our wild spaces and the wildlife, one important thing to know is like just you have people. There are so many people and so many organizations in this area that have like-minded people. And you might want to check them out if they have hikes coming up or presentations coming up. Because I know a lot of the hikes that I lead, people start to recognize each other. It's like, oh, I remember you. You were on this hike, and sometimes even hike together. And so just a quick run in addition to the Bashkilis Area Association, Meek, the Mamakating Environmental Education Center. If you've never been here, if you're watching this recording later, this is just a wonderful place to access the trails of the Bashkil and check out all the great educational information that they have here, all the programs that they run. We have Audubon societies. We have an Orange County Audubon Society, but there's a Sullivan County County Orange Audubon Society. There's a Gifford Pinchot Audubon Society on the Pennsylvania side. There's a Mearnsburg Club in Orange County. There are friends groups for the Shawangunk grasslands or the Wallkill River National Wildlife Refuge. So if this is something that you enjoy, there's all of these great spaces to explore and all of these great people who run these organizations. I would encourage you to check them out and see if anything of interest to you. Obviously, one can belong to all of these. All the ones I just showed you, I'm a member of all of these. And so by no means mutually exclusive, I belong to this group as opposed to this other one. And I always say that I always like to lead with this, and I feel there's a little judgy on my part, so it's a little inappropriate, so I apologize. But I've traveled a bit, and one of the things that strikes me is while I love traveling, sometimes I get bored. I mean, the West is beautiful. The Caribbean islands, beautiful. But after a lot of times you've seen all of the birds, or like you've seen a lot of the wildlife, like you run out. And then you come back home and you realize this is such an incredible area. Like, not only is it just incredible, period, the diversity which we have often exceeds the diversity, like in many of these other places. We are so fortunate to be here. So the Bashikil and preserving its habitat, the Shawangunk grasslands, the Audubon societies, all of this, if you belong to these organizations, know that you would be helping in the preservation for all of this great wildlife. I was, I don't want to say stupid, but one of the great mistakes I made in my life is somehow I got it into my head that warm weather is the time that you go birding and looking for wildlife. And I would just say, oh, it's just too cold in winter. All right. So I'll just wait for it to get warm. I'll wait till like May or June, better yet, and then I'll see all of the birds. And it was only later that I realized by that time, you've missed so many that every season is good for wildlife observation. Although in various seasons, you might see different things. And that includes winter. Winter is a great time to observe wildlife. We certainly have a lot of wildlife around us, and some that you can only see in winter. So that's what this presentation is about, that just as cold as it is. So I just took a few minutes, I hear there. I saw some of the things I expected to, like mallards, but there were bluebirds right up the road. It's always a pleasure to see them. There were goldfinches. And as we'll see, there's a lot of things that if you don't see them in the next month, you're going to have to wait till next year. All right, because winter is the time to see them. While I speak, I don't know, I'd have to check, but red-breasted nuthatches might be right outside my window. They've been visiting the feeders here at Meek. So I want to focus on the bird species that we see, but just kind of like also a little thing. Sometimes birds act differently. So if you're a birder just trying to increase, is that me? Um, if you're a birder and you're saying like, aha, like I'm getting to know the world of birds. Sometimes there are things that you recognize, but they're doing different things in winter than they are other times, like robins. We know robins. We see them in spring. They're on our lawns eating worms. But all of a sudden, you might notice, wait, there are robins here in winter. They nest, they winter here, but they're doing some different things. First, they're eating a lot more plant material. So there are a lot of birds which will eat bugs when they're available. That's their main thing because of the protein source. But in winter, if they can digest plant material, not all plants can. We'll be getting to the cedar waxwings. And actually, it was about a month ago that some of us saw 24 cedar waxwings here at the Bashnikel. If you have modifications to digest plant material, now you can stay in our area, but you might be seen in a different place. Robins are not going to be on their lawn. They're going to be in a place that's rich in berries. Here's another example where starlings were this much of a year, but much of the year they're not doing that. All right, so here's a starling in warmer weather. All right, but come colder weather, you might see 1,000 of them. All right, so birds can do different things. So in addition to what birds are we seeing, how are they acting? Um, and here we see some of the sparrows again. Okay, so uh, do birds migrate? What birds will we see here? Well, I wish it was an easy answer. Unfortunately, it kind of begs the question, like migration, it isn't a yes or no. Like, yes, they migrate. No, they don't. There's a messy term called partial migration. So partial migration can kind of mean two things. One is eagles. Let's take the eagles of the Bashakil, but that could apply to a lot of the birds we're seeing here. Do they migrate? Well, some of them don't, period. Like the Georgia eagles. They stay in their breeding territory all year round. Some do positively, like Quebec's eagles. Quebec gets just too darn cold. All right, so those eagles are going to come south. So some don't migrate, some do migrate. And in the middle, then, they have a choice. All right, so do the bald eagles, which nested here last spring, did they stay in our area? They could have. That's an option. And maybe in a milder winter they would, but they could now be in North Carolina, right? But if you say, wait, no, there's eagles here all year round. True, but it might be that our Bashkill eagles are now in North Carolina and Quebec's eagles are here. So you could see a bird, whether it be eagles or bluebirds or great blue herons. You could see them all year round, but it might not necessarily be the same bird. All right. So it might be our birds are south, and Canada's birds um, are here. So partial migration, a little messy in that sense. Now, I'd love to talk about great blue herons in winter, et cetera, but if it's okay with you, I'd like to start with the special birds of winter that really you're only going to see in winter. All right. So in our area, we are lucky to have so many of Canada's birds. And if you're thinking, wait, don't birds go south for winter? They do, but this is south. All right. For Quebec, this is south. So like some birds go to Florida. We are Florida for a lot of the birds. Here, like some of the birds you're about to see. I'll save that till when you see them. So for example, winter comes along and a lot of the birders in the area, they're like, all right, I get out my winter bird list. All right. And on this are the short-eared owls. Short-eared owls love marshes because there's going to be rodents like voles running around in the marshes. And so they'll fly low to the ground looking for them. But one of the things that make them neat is some owls come out at dusk. So there's nocturnal, you're a nighttime bird. Diurnal, you're a daytime bird. But there's also this weird term called crepuscular, means that dawn and dusk can be a time that you are active. So while a lot of owls come out only when it's dark, short-eared owls, they're out at dusk and on a good day, maybe even like 3 in the afternoon. So there are areas like the Shawangunk grasslands, like the Liberty Loop Marsh, which are great places to see these birds. Although you could see them all throughout our area. They are just like the most famous areas because they do like that marsh grassland habitat. And they're easy to see because what are they doing? They're flying over an open area low to the ground looking for rodents. And so if you're just standing still, you get to, monitor them as they do. So winter comes, and that's on my list. When am I going to go see the short-eared owls? Now, I'll mention these guys while we're here. Harrier hawks are also doing the same. So in winter, there's not a lot to find as far as food. But like voles in marshy areas, these rodents, they're warm-blooded. They'll be around all year. So owls are hunting them in the darker hours. But northern harrier hawks do the same during daylight. And so if you were to go to one of the places I just mentioned, Great place to see harrier hawks while it's still daytime. And then as we start getting closer to night, then you see the short-eared owls. And that then raises the problem. So I'll just get to this little issue while we're here. How do you tell them apart? Because, at noon, you're just seeing harrier hawks. Right as it's getting dark, you're seeing short-eared owls. But what about like as it starts to get dusk? They're both out at the same time, doing the same thing, flying low, etc. So owls have a more dish-shaped face. They have this comma shape around their wings and a shorter tail, while the harriers, longer tails, more pointed wings. And there's two different colors. If you're looking at males are a little smaller than females, and most raptors that would be true of these. Then males are called gray ghosts because they have a grayish coloration as opposed to the females, which have more brown. And harrier hawks can be identified thanks to a big white spot that they have on their. Come on, stop it. Every time I try to go there, it's like giving me 8 options. No, just go to raw. Go away, go away, go away. Okay, I want to go there. So you see this big white spot that harrier hawks have on um, the base of their tail. Any second now, there. So that's an easy way to spot them. Now, welcome, welcome. Um, Wildlife of winter, feel free to have a seat. And one of the reasons you might actually see them both at the same time is that harrier hawks, they get their name because they harry, they bother. They do that to their prey, but they can also do it to owls. Harrier hawks are a little bit bigger than owls. And so if an owl catches a rodent, harriers will try to take it from them. And so you may see these together and the harriers chasing the owls. Like on a walk I did, I think about 3 weeks ago, we saw harriers trying to steal this owl's rodents away from it. So there's the harrier, there's the owl that is chasing. All right, so there's harrier and owl in mid-flight. So this is wonderful, and winter is the time you're going to see this. All right, that scene you couldn't see in any other season. So that so this is a great time to come out. I'm just going to keep zipping through my YouTube channel. I have a lot of videos. Like every winter we see short-eared owls, etc. So every winter there'll be a new one. And so if you're curious or ever want to reference any of this, Dr. Jan, DRJAHN 41, has all of the videos that you're seeing. So you're welcome to go see them here. Okay. This has been a great year for another winter bird I love, the rough-legged hawks. I've seen them a couple of places. Last year I didn't see any. So that's another thing. Will birds migrate south? I can't speak for birds. I certainly don't want to say this is what this bird is thinking. But a lot of people are of the mind that it varies from year to year. So there are birds that we will always see in winter, but like snow geese, will they stay in our area in winter? Most years, but not every year. Like you might say, oh, there's a big flock of snow geese here, all winter. They've been here this January. But you might get to the point where like, I haven't seen them this year. And the same is true of these rough-legged hawks. All right. They are typically here in winter, but then they'll go a winter where you talk to people and you say, like, no, I haven't seen any, especially if it's mild, or maybe if they can continue to hunt farther north, they stay up north. So rough-legged hawks are neat. Once again, you will only see these in winter. So this is a winter bird, just a little smaller than a red-tailed hawk. And they come in two morphs. A lot of raptors do. So here's a lighter morph. This is a rough-legged hawk. Notice these dark spots under the wings. That's kind of distinctive. But in a second, you'll see a dark morph. And it's thought that if you've got a bird that spends a lot of time in the Arctic, sometimes there's sunny skies, sometimes cloudier skies, sometimes there's a snowy background, sometimes there's no snow and it's like darker forest, etc. So what camouflage helps you blend in? Well, it varies based on the amount of sun and the snow. And so having both light and dark morph birds in the population just helps them be flexible. So that's the thought. But in any case, this one was seen near Goshen, New York. The dark morph and the light morph I photographed by the Wallkill earlier this year. And then you can see multiple. So just, oh, beautiful. And once again, for some people, this might be, oh, here's a hawk. But like this is on my list, my winter list, like rough-legged hawks. And I know I don't see them all the time. So I just, go out like, oh, all right, this is something that We go, uh, come winter, you're going to go out and see that. So once again, I'm just going to zip through this so we can get to all of the cool guys, but I've got more of the rough-legged hawks I've seen this year, so won't let me get really close. So that was much appreciated. Oh, and another thing about these rough-legged hawks, because you want a cheat sheet, I do anyway. One of the cheat sheets for them is that um, there are a number of birds which will do what you're about to see, like kestrels will, they're little falcons, but big hawks tend not to. So if you're just looking up and you see all of a sudden, think this is it, it's here somewhere. If you see it hover, that might not be hover. Oh, it's in this video somewhere. There we go. Can you see it just staying in one place? All right, red tails don't typically do that. Red shoulders don't typically do that. So if you see something just doing that, all of a sudden, you don't always get close to birds. Sometimes birds are, not kind to you. But if you see that, like, oh, like just from a ways, like that's a rough-legged hawk. That's a roughie. So it's nice when birds have a behavior which help. Another one on my list winter is snow geese. Snow geese also come in two morphs, light morph, dark morph. The light morph is the far more common. But in winter, they're forming these huge, huge flocks. And as you see them, change their direction suddenly, all of a sudden, like the white changes and now you see the black on their wingtips, etc. Just absolutely beautiful. Typically seen here in winter, but I wouldn't bet the farm on it. Like just there are years I've seen them pass over our area this year. I don't know of anywhere where they're permanently resided. If there are, Um, I haven't seen them. Every now and then you see them in migration, or like a lone one will be hanging out. So here you see a snow goose. Notice a little smaller than a Canada goose. Once again, if you're not birding in winter, you're not going to see these guys. And there's more. So saw some during the Christmas bird count this year. These are horned larks. And I'm going to speak of things which are generally true. So a lot of these birds, I don't want to say it is impossible that you see this in warmer months, but like very unlikely. When you look at birds' ranges, there's like the common range, but then there's another area where you're not likely to see it, but birds are sometimes weird. You might see one a little, outside its normal range. But winter is the time that you expect it. We don't expect to really see them hardly at all in the warmer months. And so a lot of Canada's horned larks are here where they will feed on the ground here, in addition to that snow bunting, which we will see in a second. So horned larks, once again, they're on my winter list. You don't see them all the time. We saw them this year in our area, so you're like, oh, great, we saw those. And snow buntings, I have not seen these often. I love these birds. I might have seen them a month ago in Southern Orange County, but where I did see it, yeah, like 3 weeks ago, was right on Haven Road here. So snow buntings were here at the Bashakill, and this is a cool bird. Only in winter, and you can't say like every year I know I'm going to see these. So this was kind of cool. So they're cute little birds, and I just actually I'm not sure. Yeah, yeah. So these are specifically the ones that were here a couple of weeks ago. Um, if you look at a map of North America, there's Greenland, really far north. But then there's a couple of Canadian islands where actually a little higher. You can find them there in summer. So these are songbirds have the northernmost distribution of any songbird. So when I say this is Florida, this is like the males, like where they want to lay their eggs, they want to lay their eggs in like rock crevices. But apparently there aren't, as many as they'd like. So like the males will go up and try to secure a rock crevice to, attract a female because there's a good territory. They may leave us and go north when like the temperatures can still reach minus 20 degrees. All right. So like these are hardy little birds. So we're like, oh, how are they managing here in, Sullivan County at the Bashakill in the winter? Oh, they go north of Greenland and they go to the north of Greenland. So, these are hardy birds. Notice what they're doing though. They're eating snow because the water's frozen. All right. So birds can get water in winter, but that takes energy. They have to now use their body heat to melt it. So they prefer not to do that. And so even though it's frigid cold, I actually did pass a little open water on South Road here on the Bashkill, and there was about a dozen and a half mallards there. So like even as cold as it is, like you can find snow for water, but there is actually some open water here or there, which the birds have certainly got to appreciate because that saves them energy. That as far as ingesting. Okay. But wait, there's more. This is from the Bashik Hill last year. I think I saw only one winter wren this year. So there are wrens. You know, there's a lot of wrens, but some wrens are only here in summer. Marsh wrens are here in summer. House wrens are here in summer, and they're south of us now. Carolina wrens, they may be here in winter, but their name, I'm going to use the word Carolina a couple of times. Carolina wrens, this is north for them. Like the reason for their name is the Carolinas was a good place to find them. Same thing with red-bellied woodpeckers, which I'll get to in a little bit. Their species name is carolinensis. So, you know, in this area they were here, but you know, Carolinas are a little more typical. But they're spreading north as the climate warms. But here's a winter wren. The only time we see them is winter. All right, so you can see wrens all throughout the year, but which wrens you see will vary. Winter wrens, so that would be one on your list where like you're not going to see this in a few months. And then some of the other wrens on your list, marsh wrens, house wrens, you don't have to worry about just yet. You won't see them until the warmer months. Okay, so I don't know what, yeah, yeah. Okay. Um, I love these birds, and the Bashkill is great for kinglets. There's two kinds of kinglet. There's golden crown kinglets, and there are ruby crown kinglets. One of the ways you can identify them is that they are smaller than sparrows. Not many birds are. All right, so if you see a bird and you're like, it's a little smaller than a sparrow, golden crown kinglet is a likely guess. Let's get to, I'm sure I've got a lot of these. Some of this video is not very good. One of the reasons it's not very good is because it is difficult to be a photographer of golden crown kinglets. All right, so I'm sorry, YouTube is thinking. So it'll catch up to us, I'm sure. They never stay still. And here in winter, if you're a photographer, you know that your camera doesn't know whether to focus on the bird, the branch in front of the bird, or the branch behind the bird. And you can manual focus, but if a bird never stops moving, especially if it's small to begin with, it has gone on since then. I'm sorry. So you would be getting a much better version of this, but it looks like we're just taxing the internet a little.
Yeah, the internet's been like bad over here all day, so
Okay.
maybe something like that.
Okay. So sorry about that. We'll just carry on as best we can. So anyway, so this video is iffy because once again, these are tougher birds, but I'm sorry, let me. Okay. So it's always hopping around. But I apologize. I feel like I'm not doing my golden crown kinglets justice. So somewhere, I'm sorry if it's not in this playlist. We'll get it then. Would be, where's YouTube? Let's get you some good golden crown kinglet pictures. Last year we were doing nature hikes here. We also saw ruby crown kinglets also here this year and last year. Beautiful birds. The sad thing is they are famous for the gold in their crown or the ruby in their crown. But males have them, females don't. And just because they have the ability to flash this really cool little golden thing, they can have the feather stand up, doesn't mean that they're gonna. All right, this could be like a courtship thing. And so you're like, male, I'm looking at you here. Could you pose for the camera and have your nice golden crest stand up like a mohawk? That's not that common to see. And the same with ruby crown. I've gotten a lot of pictures of ruby crowned kinglets here at the Bashkill. But if they're females or immatures, they don't have the red head. But then even the males, they'll flash it during courtship. And so if you don't see it, uh, uh, you know, that's just the way that it goes. But the original point of the whole conversation was these are best seen in winter. So once again, winter is a great time to go out and see them and also learn about bird behavior because, you know, those kinglets, for example, how are they doing in this cold weather? Well, if truth be told, not great in that not all of them are going to survive. It's not like, wow, it's amazing that these birds survive. Winter's tough, all right? And so kinglets they are known among the birds of having really big clutch sizes of eggs. They can have like 9 eggs, I think even a little more. I think like rubies can have up to 12. And then they can have 2 nests in a summer. That's a lot of eggs. That's a lot of baby birds. Why? Because so many of them are going to die in winter because it's so hard um, to live. Here's a nuthatch, and you might be saying, "Oh, nuthatches, I know them. We have those." But if you look at its chest, it's more of a reddish color. This is a red-breasted nuthatch. Meek has been having them at the bird feeders, and this is a special thing. Like once again, I don't want to say you will never see this outside winter. That would be, inappropriate. But you'll hardly ever. Like winter's the time to see it. Usually, a lot of these birds they love conifer trees, and that's where they breed. And so, a lot of these birds like if you go up to Canada, that's where they are. But little birds at the top of really big pine trees, hard to see. Right. So now in their winter grounds that they're like at bird feeders like the one outside here, this might be your best chance to see birds like red-breasted nuthatches over the course of a year. And then there are the sparrows. Now, I'm sorry, like, so the quality of the images are going down a little bit. I think that's an internet connection thing. So sorry about that. Um, there are always sparrows, but there are different sparrows. There are sparrows that you only see in summer. There are sparrows that you only see in migration. And then there are sparrows that you only see in winter. So here's my list, one on my list, a white-crowned sparrow. I remember I was birding with some really good birders here at the Bashkill years ago. And one of them at the very beginning saw a white-crowned sparrow. And he said, okay, I'm done. Like my day is like, that's all I wanted, and for a lot of people like sparrow, really, that's what you're going, not for the eagle. But this is not the most common bird to see, and only here in winter. So the white crown on the head with black stripes, that's one of the distinctive things. If you say, why is it green? Because you said they're only here in winter. The green pictures were taken in Chicago. So that's a northern bird. That we only get here during winter. The mature birds all have black and white stripes. The immature birds, a little more of a brownish color. Now, far more common in general, but also far more common at the Bashkill. So this next sparrow, the Bashkill, loves the Bashkill. It's called a white-throated sparrow. So here's a white-throated sparrow. There's a white-crowned sparrow. This one you'll only see in winter. The white-throated you'll pretty much only see in winter. So that's the white-crowned again. That would be the really special one to see. The white-throated, very, very common here. And don't want to get into this because this would be a whole separate thing. But there's a lot of reason to focus on sparrows. I want to talk about a lot more than sparrows, so I won't say this forever. But one is like, there's like weird stuff going on. So for example, some white-throated sparrows, look, black and white stripes. Some, it's more of a tan. And if you say, what's going on? Is one male, female? No. Is one juvenile and adult? No. And then you say, well, what's going on? They sometimes say that this bird has 4 genders. Now, that's not quite true, but it is certainly weird. All right. So the white-crowned sparrows, it's the immatures that look more brown. But with the white-throated sparrows, what's going on is you have white-striped females, white-striped males. You have brown-striped females, brown-striped males. And opposites attract. The white-striped females almost never mate with white-striped males. And the brown-striped females almost never mate with brown-striped males. So in the white-throated sparrows, you almost always have one with brown stripes, one with tan stripes. And there's like whole genes. It's not just the gene for color that's doing this. There's like a whole bunch of genes that travel together. So it's, the white stripes are not just different in their color, but their behavior, their courtship choice. And I'm being very general and probably unfair at certain levels, but I'll just say, this. In general, this seems to be a big part of that. Having a white stripe, male or female, makes you more aggressive. Now, aggressive birds are going to more aggressively defend the nest from nest predators, so the young benefit from that. The tan stripe, less aggressive and more likely to care for the young. Obviously, young benefit from being, cared for. So in scenarios where the male has a white stripe and the female has a tan stripe, this is how they work out their child rearing. The male defends the nest but doesn't raise the young. The female does all the young raising. But if you've got a white striped female and a tan striped male, they both share. They both defend the nest and they both then care for the young. So you've got these 2 different behavior patterns in the same species. And the young are both defended and cared for either way. And that's really unique in birds. So, here's a sparrow and you might think nothing of it, but all of a sudden you say, wow, there's some weird biology going on in there. So that's a neat sparrow of winter. There's more. The American tree sparrow is a sparrow of winter. And this at the Bashagill, this is a good place to see it. All right. So they've got like a reddish cap, but the weird thing about a bicolor bill, there's only a couple of birds where the top part of the bill is a different color than the bottom part. And so if you're looking for like, how can I be absolutely sure of um, what sparrow this is, the American tree sparrow is a winter sparrow for us. And here, slightly better camera that got these next videos this past month. Right, yeah, right in here. So really cute sparrow. Once again, this is um a winter sparrow here. And you can see, obviously, they're still finding seeds, even though it's in winter. Notice they have an unstreaked chest with a little white blemish on it. And if you ask, where are the birds? How are they keeping warm? Well, notice where this one is. It's still feeding, all right, but it's kind of sheltered in the vegetation. It's not sitting on an open branch where it's going to be exposed to the wind to the same degree. And then people might say like, oh, I don't know my sparrows very well. Well, I'm sure you know this one because juncos are actually sparrows. All right. This is an easier one to recognize. And almost like, I kind of always thought the juncos were neat, like a winter sparrow. But Liam, if you want to jump in, you may have a similar experience. I have a newfound appreciation for these guys because I went to an Audubon conference in Montreal this summer. And I went to two really high mountains, Whiteface in the Adirondacks, and then I went to Mount Washington in New Hampshire, the highest point on the East Coast. And when you get above the tree line, that's a really harsh environment. All right, so like it's super windy, and I'm not going to brag. I'm not bragging because I was literally scared out of my mind. I'm like going up on Mount Washington. I'm like, get me off of this place. I was not happy to be there anyway. At any point, so like the temperature difference between top and bottom was like 30 degrees, and there was a sign at the top of Mount Washington said here was the highest wind speed ever recorded at 230 miles an hour. Like just no joke. This is a scary place to be. But juncos were there. So if you're asking how do juncos survive, here in winter, they are used to harsh places like Whiteface Mountain, and Mount Washington above the tree line. Even in breeding season, these are rough places. So that was a neat experience because I think of them as my winter bird that I see at the feeder, forgetting that this is a third of their year. Like they have a full year, and it's kind of neat to travel because you see, all right, this is not where they lay their eggs. They're up, in these crazy northern places here. One last thing on sparrows, and we'll move on. I, hit a while, like I wasn't great at sparrows for a while. I'm probably still not great. And I remember just one winter I said, I'm going to learn my sparrows this year. Because sometimes you're taking a walk and you're not seeing as many birds in winter. And you're like, okay, well, like, if this were spring and I was seeing bird here, bird there, I wouldn't maybe worry about the sparrows. But I said, I'm not seeing as many. So why don't I just take my time for the sparrows? And so, if you're going on a winter walk, not seeing many birds, maybe you say, all right, maybe I'll learn my sparrows so that then come spring, I already know then when there's all these other birds coming through. But then once again, that point where there's a lot of sparrows that if you don't see them in winter, you're not going to see them until next year. So the American tree sparrow, the white-throated sparrows, the white crown sparrows, and the juncos, this is your best time to see them. Okay. All right. So this first group of birds, they were kind of the ones that you have to see in winter pretty much because that's your time to see. But now let's just kind of talk about some of the other birds that you might see in in this. So here's a video I made last year on Valentine's Day. I was seeing a bunch of eagles, so I figured, let's talk about eagles and Valentine's Day. So about this time last year, eagles are partial migrants. So that eagle might have spent its summer here, might have, raised a family here. Or this might be a Quebec eagle, which has come down here. It could go either way. All right. And so in a milder winter, maybe we see more eagles than in a harsher winter. But February's like an interesting time when it comes to eagles because eagles have to start laying their eggs soon. Why soon? Well, because they want their young to be full grown by June. All right. Now, an eagle's egg, yay, big, right? Um, a full-grown eagle has a wingspan which is 6, 7, or in Alaska, even 8 feet. So, baby chick comes out of this egg, and by June, it has to have a 7-foot wingspan. All right. That's a lot of growing. In fact, that's the fastest rate of growth known in birds. So, when do you lay your eggs? Soon. End of February, beginning of March. That's the time because later than that, you're running out of time. Okay, as far as the year goes. And so keep your eye out for eagles. Now, in a milder winter where there's more open water, we might see more eagles coming north. But it's not a lot of birds, it's not temperature as much as photo period, where they notice that the days are getting longer and they're like, okay, I'm going to start going to Orange County, whether Orange County or Sullivan County, whether we're ready or not. Like our water still may be frozen, but they weren't waiting for the water to unfreeze. They were waiting for the time of the year to be right. So we may start seeing eagles starting to come back through this area. In fact, oh, come on. Every year I like I'll add this one to the playlist, I'll add this one. So there's another one here somewhere, but I was waiting for that to be the next one. Really? Okay, somewhere on this playlist. I just got mad a week ago and I'm like, this should be here. Oh, it's so much more fun when they queue up immediately. Somewhere. All right, we'll go back to you. I think two of you, I think, were with me uh when we were on the Bashkill here and we saw 14 eagles. 14. So that should pop up any second now, really. There we go. Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. So when you walk on any day, and certainly in winter, like the hope is, I hope we see some birds. And like seeing an eagle, like especially for a lot of people, like, oh, that's really cool. But like this is one picture, and I've like put all the eagles which are in frame at the same time. So this is February, March. So what are they doing here? Like, are they feeding here? No, the Bashkill can't support 14 eagles, especially when the water's frozen. Yes, eagles can feed on Canada geese and ducks or carrion or a few other things, but you can't feed 14 eagles here. They're decided they're going north already, and so they're just passing through. Notice a lot of them are the immatures here. So be on the lookout because this is happening soon. They want to come up because they have to fix up their nests before they start laying eggs. They're going to be adding more weight to more branches, fixing it up a little. Now, this happens, and anyway, let me tell you the story, then I'll add to it. So what happens is the female will sit in the nest. The male brings branches to the nest. Female evaluates. Checks out the branch. If she doesn't like it, tosses it over, and the male like go gets another one. I once there was an Eagle Fest just over the Hudson River. There was a Native American speaker talking about the advice that they give to young women based on this, and they were like, make your males like come and bring you these things, and you evaluate, just check it out, like don't accept any branch you don't want. So once again, this was just a bunch of us were walking along the trail from the boat launch. Look at that, just amazing. So this is a winter thing. You're not going to see that in warmer months. And so this is a great time to get views of wildlife. And I want to get to the next one. Oh, right, because that's not on the playlist. So going back to here. So more on eagles soon, because obviously if it's not letting me, just being difficult. What we're going to have in about a little over a month is we're going to start talking about the bald eagles of the Bashkill. And if anyone wanted to volunteer to be an eagle watch and a nature watch volunteer, what we'd like to do is get spotting scopes on the eagle nests where people can watch the eagles grow up over the summer. Now, unfortunately, for those who know, we've had some drama in the past couple of years where we have too many eagles in too small a space and they fight with each other. They're territorial. And so 2 years ago, we had zero. I'm sorry, 2 years ago, we had one eaglet from three nests mature. Last year, we had none. So lately, the drama has been we know we're going to have eagles nesting here, but if they start fighting amongst each other, will we actually get, nests where people can stop by and uh, and observe? But if that's something sounds like you're interested in, we'd love to have you. Um, at waterfowl, like I said, I saw some mallards on the way here, despite how frigid it is. But if you were to go to the Delaware, you can see common mergansers. They're still with us. And this is a time of the year where the males look different from the females, unlike them looking both the same come summer. So this is an exciting duck, but you might want to, visit different habitats because once again, you wouldn't see it here, but the Delaware, you might see it. There are black ducks in um, our area certainly during migration, but in my even um, over winter you can get some black ducks here, especially given that the last 2 winters were very mild. So this was a trail camera in the past uh, 2 winters. Now the beginning of January was freezing. The end of January was freezing. And so this is what the Delaware River looks like. The middle of January, I don't know if you noticed, it was actually warm. It was in the 40s. So what does a stupid person do? Go kayaking, which I don't advise. But this is what it looked like. The Delaware in January normally is completely frozen. You can't kayak, and the ice is so big that would be stupid. But it was open, and look what I saw. I had never seen a long-tailed duck before. So winter's a weird time. I saw this duck I'd never seen on the Delaware just because it was warmer than your typical January temperature. So once again, winter is not a bad time to go birding at any point. That was a bird I had never seen before. Another thing that's weird about winter is uh, even though there's less habitat, like if you have a feeder like here or like up the road, just not even half a mile, there was a feeder by the road. That's where I saw bluebirds, goldfinches, all these sparrows. Where there is food, that's where birds, really congregate. So you might like walk for miles and miles and not see any birds, but then get to this one great place where there's like a lot of bushes, where there's berries, and there, and all of a sudden see like all of these birds. We'll get to the cedar waxwings. We saw 2 dozen of them not too long ago. And so same thing with flocks of different wildlife here. All right. So here, we are largely frozen at a wetland near Goshen. All right. But there's predators out. So we've been getting videos of like bobcats, coyotes, foxes. We've gotten trail camera video of all of those here at the Bashakil. And so if you've got frozen water, all right, here you see all of these Canada geese coming towards the end of the evening because it's harder for predators to access them in um, in the middle. So I've had days where, like I'm not seeing much, and all of a sudden you see 300 Canada geese. That's a big number. Or I was in December, I was out 60 mallards. And so once again, a lot of birds congregate in larger groups in winter than they typically do in other times of the year. Okay. So, there are birds which we do expect here to stay all winter, especially among the woodpeckers, because there are still insects in winter, but a lot of them are just harder to, a lot of them are dormant. But if you can make holes in wood, then woodpeckers can feed the same way they do in warmer months. And so this is a great time to see the big pileated woodpecker. This is the largest North American woodpecker, we think, because the two which used to be the largest, we think they are extinct, the imperial and the ivory. And this one here, this was right down the road here along the Bashakil. Not only is that a pileated, it's a female. And because it just has black on the stripe, and there would be a little red spot in the middle if it was male. So they both have the big red mohawk. They both look about the same. But the female is all black here. The male would have a red spot in there. So pileated woodpeckers, they're fun to see in winter. We get other woodpeckers as well. We get downies and hairy woodpeckers. They look pretty much the same. Harrys are a little bit bigger, and their bills are a little bit longer. Bluebirds are here all winter. And I just saw one right before our meeting just up the road. And when I was here, the last time I was here like 3 weeks ago, I saw three woodpeckers a mile down the road at one of the pull-off. I'm sorry, three bluebirds down at the pull-off. So bluebirds are certainly here in winter. Um, Here you can see that the reason why, because they can feed on plant material, and we do have leftover berries from last year still available, and so that's why we can still continue to find those. I'm just going to keep an eye on the time. And sometimes you see bluebirds and you're not aware. So females and immature bluebirds have more of a grayer appearance to them. So if someone who said like, I've never seen a bluebird in the winter, to be honest, you might have. All right, because like look at that, like a lot of people wouldn't know that's a bluebird, or you would just see the orange chest. Once again, females and the immatures can look a little bit different. Before I forget, just while I'm on bluebirds, if this is something of interest to you and you're like, "Oh, I'd like to help out the birds," one of the things a lot of us are trying to do, including the National Audubon Society, is study these birds, where they're going, because between human population growth, habitat loss, and now climate change, where are they? Are their numbers? Well, we know their numbers are going down. North America has lost about a quarter of its birds in the past decades. But we also see habitat shifting. We're starting to see birds in new places. So what's going on? There is one national count which ends this weekend called Climate Watch, where you go out and you count as many bluebirds as you can with a specific regimen. I was doing that here along the Bashik a couple of weeks ago. But if you said like, oh, how could I participate in this? There's a winter one, there's a summer one. You can go or work with an Audubon Society near you. And starting this coming weekend, there's something called the Great Backyard Bird Count. The idea is let's just encourage everyone in one weekend to go out and spend at least 15 minutes outside your house or wherever, and then go on eBird and just write the birds you saw. I was there for however long you got to spend, as little as 15 minutes. These are the birds I saw. But now all over the country, all over the world, people are entering this data. And as we try to understand how many birds are there, where are they, is their winter range changing, where are they going, you've helped contribute to the data. So I know this is something you can do on your own, but if you're affiliated with any other organizations, great backyard bird counts can occur in your area where people take a little hike and go. I'm scheduling a few, so you can go on the Orange County Audubon Society website soon and see that. But the snow is obviously limiting some of this. So I'm like just going to places like High Point State Park, where you can go and park in the parking lot and just kind of walk around there. Uh, we'll do a couple more and then just maybe wind up. Beautiful birds, cedar waxwings. And it was a couple weeks ago that we saw almost 24 of these here along the Bashik. So if you're asked, why are we seeing those? The answer is, well, once again, look, they can eat berries, right? So if you can eat the fruits from last year, then, even if insects are no longer available, that you could still exist in an area. So this is a great place to see cedar waxwings in warmer months, but all throughout winter, you can see cedar waxwings. Here as well, like once again, we were hiking, it was snowy, it was winter, but all of a sudden we saw 24 of them. That's bigger groups than what you typically find. The reason they like big groups is because if you have one of those rare berry bushes near you, robins might be there, mockingbirds might be there. But if you've got 24 friends, you can kind of muscle them out of the area. Okay, now, okay, I have a song. I guess I didn't put it next. So there's one danger for them is the berries that they're eating are old berries. I mean, they're last autumn's berries. And the danger in doing that is that the sugars have begun to ferment and are producing alcohol. So birds can get drunk, all right? And it sounds funny, but like, drunk driving is a thing. Drunk flying, also a thing. Birds fly into things, birds fall off of branches, and birds can die. So birds that are specialized to eat fruits often have modifications of their digestive systems, like big livers so they can metabolize this alcohol. Showing off the cedar waxings we saw on our hike the other day.
Pictures
Yeah.
from the hike?
Yep, they are. They are.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
So once again, you can see these in summer, but not in as large a group. So winter, sometimes birds, the same birds are there, but they're just uh, acting differently. One of the things that does make me sad about winter is that very often the warblers are no longer here. A lot of bird watchers, warblers are among our favorites, and we've just resigned ourselves that we're going to go, the winter without warblers. But not necessarily. Here's a warbler that eats fruits. Most don't. Most only, primarily eat insects. But yellow rump warblers also eat fruits. They can eat waxy fruits that other birds can't, like poison ivy berries, for example. So, every now and then you'll see a yellow rump warbler here over winter. So this is from about a month ago. I did a nature walk, and then a little bit after that, Merlin, I was walking around and it heard a yellow rump warbler. I didn't get to see it. I saw a bunch of little birds, and they all took off, so it was in the mix. But like if you're, a birder and you love your warblers, you can still see them in winter. It's just a little harder. And as our winters get more mild, I know it's hard to talk about it because it's been so cold, but this is milder. Like if you ask, like, just what were temperatures in January 20 years ago? It's cold now. It was a little colder then. All right, so we are gradually warming up. And this is changing the birds that we see. So here's a mockingbird. They used to never be here over winter. We see them more and more. All right, Carolina wrens. They used to be rare in winter, now pretty common. Now, if it's a super cold winter, they'll die. They're not good at cold. All right, so a cold winter limits them. But because it has been warmer and warmer, we're seeing birds kind of change their range. That's one of the reasons why we're studying the birds, trying to figure out what's going on with them and where, how they're going. Other birds are going to be here all winter, like brown creepers I see in the winter here along the Bashakil. Because believe it or not, there are still bugs. What are they doing? There are bugs out in the crevices of tree bark, right? Maybe they're active, or maybe they're just kind of like a pupal case for like a moth or something that's going to, become an adult come spring. But nevertheless, if they poke their little bills into all of those crevices of tree bark, they find egg masses, they find active juvenile insects, they can still find stuff. Um, this was just from a couple of, this was from like a week ago. So got all this snow, and I'm thinking I'll just go out and look for birds. And so obviously turkeys, they're here in winter because they don't migrate south. And lo and behold, there was a flock of turkeys, about a dozen and a half, over my head. All right. Because they're ground birds. But if you got a foot of snow, they can't scrape away the snow, and they don't want to be on the ground because there's coyotes and foxes, etc. So now all of a sudden you might look up and you say, turkeys in the trees. So winter's a time to see new things. Once again, birds might be behaving in new ways in winter. Now, the Bashakil is a great place for pheasant. And so this year there was a female pheasant down here by the nature trail. Pull off here. And then last year, this male was from the boat launch area. So this is a great place for pheasant. And so that's a female. Like I said, there was the male. So the Bashakil is a great place to see them even in winter. Now, we're getting close to 3:30. So, like I said, I do have a long list of this. I go into more birds. I go into birds doing things that they don't normally do. All right. So they might form like these huge flocks of starlings called a murmuration. There are certainly rodents active in winter. I mean, we know that because that's what the owls and the harrier hawks were looking for. All right. So obviously they're doing that. And then there are mammals which eat those as well. Now, unfortunately, a lot of these are hard to see unless you have a trail camera. All right. So we have bobcat here at the Bashakil. There's bobcats all throughout the year. And they're eating rabbits like this. So here's a rabbit in winter. I'll get to this in a second. This is deer mice in a bluebird house. So rodents are active all winter. Turkeys are there. Canada goose are on the ice. So it's not that surprising that then you get the mammalian predators coming out as well, right? So here is bobcats near one of the trail cameras, which I set up. So this is from last year, but I've been getting them this year as well. Not only are there deer, But this is around the time where the deer should still have their bony antlers and not having dropped them yet. So if you're looking for, the bucks and the antlers, which they use to fight while mating, they won't keep them much longer. All right, but they still probably have these. Also notice they've got their dark brown coat, which is heavier and better camouflage than what they'll have in spring. All right, so if you're looking at deer, they look a little different in the spring than they do in um, than in the winter. We have lots of coyotes in this area, so this is trail camera videos from the past month. This was a little longer than that. Sometimes there are groups of those, but once again, they eat birds, they eat small mammals, and one can still find them in the Bashakil and other areas. Here, I already mentioned, we have uh, uh, rabbits like these cottontails. And then if you have a bluebird house, end of February is when I clean them out. All right, because that's when maybe you start getting bluebirds starting to lay their eggs in there. And when you try to clean them out, you sometimes find this. Just all of these mice have made their winter homes here. That's some of what the owls were eating and the coyotes were eating, etc. And so if you want, your bird houses to be good for birds, get the winter rodents um, out of there. And I've got a couple of videos on that. Okay. As I start to wind down, let me just give a shout out to things that you're not going to see. Probably. Oh, well, before I do that, just let's do this one. Remember how I said like winter's a time where I try to practice my sparrows? It's also a good time to practice footprints. All right, because obviously you could see them in the snow, and you might be a little bored. You might say, I'm not seeing too much today, but some footprints in the snow. Sure, you could see footprints in the mud as well, but maybe take the time to, all right, how does one tell the difference between a coyote and a red fox, for example? All right. And there's size differences, but so this comes up later in this video. If you were to draw a line between these two front toes and the lateral toes, in a coyote, the line would pass through all of the pads. But in a fox, you could hit just the space between them. You could draw a line and not hit any of the black pads if you wanted to be short. So, just little things. And very often on a summer walk, there's just so much going on, just stopping and taking time to let me really look at a footprint and think about what, the shape of a foot looks like. Who has 5 toes? Who has 4 toes? Etc. That, might be, just something you're not going to do if you're on a busy walk. But once again, in winter, maybe that's something that you say, ooh, um, I practiced my footprints here. And then just to wrap up, under the ice, there are still water bugs, and they're still active because obviously the fish are still eating. So if you had a chance, like this is winter, there's ice there, but just look at all of these green algae still doing photosynthesis. If you were to look for water bugs, all right, you could find them here. All right. So once again, whole lot of stuff going on in winter, just might be a little harder to find. And I'll wrap up after these groups. Frogs, salamanders, turtles, these things live 5 years. Among the turtles, 20 years, 40 years. So where are they? They didn't migrate. They're at the bottom of the Bashakil. Yeah, the top of the Bashakil is frozen, but they're just breathing through their skin if they're frogs or, salamanders. If they're turtles, they do something even more clever. I don't know if you've ever heard the term cloacal respiration. Turtles are actually breathing through their butts. All right, they're actually bringing in oxygen as they open their cloaca here. So a lot of these things are just waiting at the bottom of uh, frozen water. Some frogs can actually freeze solid, like wood frogs, spring peepers, gray tree frogs. So they might be actually just like an old crevice of the tree or some of the leaves out here. There could be frogs there, and they just froze. It's freezing cold. They have ice crystals inside their body, and then just in a month they'll melt, and then they'll be active and they'll be fine again. All right. So they do that. Snakes are probably underground in burrows, but if it comes warmer, you might actually see them come out and get a drink. Like, oh, there's a rattlesnake on a warm February day. There's saying, yeah, it happens, and then it'll go back um, inside. So Obviously, winter is a different time for wildlife. But there's a lot of wildlife here. I mean, just in general, but because we live in such a diverse area, like we really have great wildlife here. This is a great place to look at wildlife at any time of year, especially even in winter. And there are things that you'll only see in winter. Sometimes these are animals which don't live here in warmer months, or they might be animals that live here in warmer months, just are acting differently and doing different things. And you can see turkeys in trees or flocks of 1,000 of something that you otherwise wouldn't. So I hope you get a chance to get out among some of the nature sites, even if you can't walk. Like if you can drive and park at the Shawangunk Grasslands parking area or park um, at the Liberty Loop, you can see short-eared owls, you can see harrier hawks, or even just park in a parking area. Like the other couple of weeks ago, I parked just down the road here, and oh look, 3 bluebirds here. I parked up here today. There's a bluebird there. We live in such a great area that I hope you get out to enjoy winter wildlife. I was going to wrap up here and answer any questions that anybody had. Thank you so very much for coming. Thank you. Any questions I can help anyone with? Vance, you have anything at home?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, so just going forward, about a month from now, the BKA and Meek start organizing talks on amphibians, where we help these amphibians cross the road as they go to where they're going to lay their eggs in spring. We'll have an eagle talk where we recruit Nature Watch volunteers if you want to help with spotting scopes around the eagle nest. So, we're about to start shifting into spring in the next couple of weeks to a month. So if you wanted to pay attention to Meek's events, there's a lot of exciting things going on. Thank you so very much for coming. Have a wonderful day. Yeah, and if Charlotte or Liam wanted to add anything about Meek, by all means.
Scheduled next month, just in the Bluebird, we're having a presentation just about that.